Welcome to Fitton's Time Machine, a podcast designed not so much for the present day listeners, but for future listeners, where it's important that real history not be buried in time. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. Hello everyone, I'm Robert P. Fitton. This is September 7th, 2015. Is this really a true statement? Absolute power corrupts absolutely? Can people really handle having a lot of power? Or how about absolute power? Is our human nature so shallow that when we first gain the vestige of power that we grab onto everything and take everything that we can? The entire quote is from Lord Acton, and it's in an 1887 letter to Bishop Creighton, and it reads as follows. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Great men are almost always bad men. Well, I don't know if I agree with the fact that great men are always bad men. At the turn of the millennium, Ricardo has been able to get whatever he wants, whenever he wants, for 500 years. Whoever gets in his way is squashed. In the time travel book 2000, we assume this means men and women of great significance and average people. But he does meet his match with an average man, Peter Sturgis, who seeks to avenge Ricardo's self-absorbed, reckless, and destructive actions. My first question for Mr. Ricardo would be, Sir, how did you get this great power? To find the answer to that, let's listen to a portion of Chapter 10, where Peter Sturgis's friend Melvin explains to him a portion of what he has found out about Ricardo. Peter rolled his eyes. My point is the world we see around us isn't really what exists. That uncertainty is really the splitting of possibilities. That's all. I'm sure Ricardo has lived many lives in many worlds. Well, this is true, but I'm trying to put this whole thing in context as you spoke. Ricardo allowed himself to be caught with kickbacks and bribes. That doesn't make any sense. Jeopardizing it all before he could leap like a frog into another world? Why would he do that? I think he believes he's invulnerable. He likes the confrontation and the chase. Martin is more reasonable. I like Martin. Peter thought for a second. Martin may be the only reason he hasn't destroyed himself. This is true. In the hotel, Martin was upset with Ricardo's antics. Maybe we can use him to get to Cibola once you get Jeannie away from Ricardo. Cibola, what does that mean? Asked Peter as he stood and walked to the window. He overlooked Melvin's drive, lighted by lamp poles up to the main gate. He definitely mentioned going to Cibola. Ah, said Melvin, lifting a leather-bound book off his desk. He opened it to an old maps page of the southwestern United States. 1539. Cibola came from the Spaniards. They heard tall tales of the 7 cities of gold, located across the desert hundreds of miles to the north, all because of 4 shipwrecked survivors of the Narvaez expedition. When they came back, they started blabbing about the cities filled with wealth. Viceroy Antonio de Mendoza gathered a party and a friar and a slave named Estevanico, and he led a group of them to find the wealth. Some time later, Estevanico and the others went up ahead, and they ran into a monk who talked up the native stories about the 7 cities called Cibola. Estevanico went ahead to what is now called New Mexico. A pissed-off Zuni tribe killed Estevanico, and his companions fled. 2 of those men were Ricardo and Martin. Melvin, how do you know this? Asked Peter from the window. Because in Spain, they have all of de Mendoza's logs of the expedition. Jill and I went to Spain last Christmas. I found the records in the Madrid library and had them translated. Ricardo Diego Medina and Martin Carlos Vasquez. Oh, God, he said, stepping toward Melvin and the leather book. Mendoza then sent Coronado in April of 1540. Coronado found nothing. It was assumed that all the stories were lies. Had he continued, he would have found what Ricardo and Martin found. Coronado swept over the whole region with this many worlds thing right under his nose. That can't be a natural phenomenon, Melvin. Probably some advanced race, and who knows why the hell they stuck that machine or whatever it is in the Colorado mountains. I don't understand it. How could they do it? But the fact that Ricardo has tiptoed between realities tells me what happened. It's not that Ricardo has the ability to change realities and have whatever he wants. It's more of an inner struggle set on an infinity symbol. Joseph Campbell said it's only when a man tames his own demons that he becomes king of himself, if not of the world. While Ricardo lives for his demons, and being king of the world is ancillary. Here, my friends, is a taste of the ruthless corruption of Ricardo Diego Medina and his sidekick, servant / slave, Martin Carlos Vasquez. 2000, the prologue. 2000, prologue, Capitale, France, August 6, 1999. It was not the first time he had murdered, nor would it be the last. Ricardo slicked back his dark wet hair and started up the white marble villa steps, stirring the crispy leaves in his wake. If he did not act with great alacrity, the national police would sweep the grounds and discover he had slashed the French woman's throat and pushed her limp body into the villa pool. Survival, not remorse, dominated his psyche. Remaining in this reality even for a day was risky. He would journey to Cibola, where the entities would transcend him into another world. He barked into the cellular as he skidded onto the veranda. "Martin! Martin!" If necessary, he would leave Martin behind. The little scrounger, having bolted earlier with some tramp, had taken a joyride in his car and spent his money. After 500 years, Martin did not appreciate his benevolence. Martin would have died at the mountain pass without his mercy at Cibola so long ago. The cellular connected to a scratchy transmission. Martin's voice wavered.
"Yeah."
"Martin, where are you?"
"Coming past the gate, old friend."
The woman with Martin laughed in the background. Incensed, Ricardo sharpened his focus beyond the rippling palms and the long linear gardens to his tiny yellow sports car racing through the front gate. "Move your arse!" He pressed the phone to his ear as the car spun up the hill.
"What's the problem?"
asked Martin. "We're going to Cibola."
"You're kidding."
"This is no joke, Martin." They needed to board the corporate jet well in advance of the police snooping around the villa. And then in 18 hours, they could be at Cibola. Martin revved the engine and then skidded to a stop on the gravel. As Ricardo descended the veranda steps, his thin, gray-haired friend leaped over the driver's door. Ricardo rounded the hood, yanked the blonde from the car, and hurled her across the driveway stones. "Get back in the car, Martin." Martin's shaky nerves always made his hands tremble. He slid into the passenger seat as Ricardo gripped the wooden steering wheel and shifted and spun around in a wide semicircle. Stones kicked up behind them as a trail of swirling dust billowed upward. Martin stared at the naked body face down in the pool as they passed. "That woman is dead." "Shut up. We're heading to the Marseille airport." "Are you crazy, killing her? The longer this goes on, the more chances you take." "She pushed me," said Ricardo, his knuckles whiter on the wheel. The blue ocean spread outward along the coast. Claudette should never have tried blackmail. "But to kill her?" Ricardo slowly smiled and squinted into the sun. "No one challenges me, Martin. No one." The hum of the jet engines assured Ricardo they had escaped trouble. He confidently gazed out the portal as the jet banked over the island. The white sands and slow-moving breakers were bathed in twilight along the coast. He gripped his pen and perused his papers on the table, and then verified his calculations on his laptop. In this new world, he would become a powerful figure in the defense establishment. Power resided with armaments. 200 years ago, during the American Revolution, he had amassed a fortune supplying arms early to the colonists. The thought of that duplicitous Franklin, the chief of the rebels, and his lying spies upset him even now. The British nearly arrested him just after Christmas because Franklin's contacts had divulged his dealing with the Frenchman and his smugglers. He had fled with Martin from Le Havre at the end of January 1777. The voyage made him rich. He remembered the cargo well: 54-pound cannons, 14,000 muskets, 100,000 flints, and assorted munitions. After docking in Portsmouth, New Hampshire in late April, he and Martin stayed in the shadows. The image of the powerfully built Washington on his white horse outside Morristown had remained with him. He smiled subtly as the jet paralleled the coast. As the millennium approached, today's technologies and expenditures bore no semblance to the cannon and musket of those days, but his lust for power and fortune had become ingrained in his soul. Again, Ricardo studied his notes on the laptop. By constructing a reality geared toward the prodigious defense expenditures, he would possess a private empire, selling to the government as he accumulated great wealth and power. He wanted to work instead of subsisting within the playboy atmosphere of the last 14 months. Martin slept with his arms folded across his blue polo shirt. His unshaven face and disheveled gray hair gave him a crude appearance. He had whined about leaving this scenario, but staying behind would have only hastened his demise. A number of companies fit his profile. In 16 hours, they would land in Denver and then be whisked off by helicopter over the craggy snow peaks to Cibola. The consciousness of the entities, residing within a galactic civilization's remnant outpost, would elevate his desire for a powerful defense corporation into a new reality. I don't know about you, but running through my head would be, how do I stop this clown if I've stepped in front of him? Anger is a great motivator, and Peter Sturgis's outrage clouds his judgment and sends him on a mission against Ricardo to rectify Ricardo sending his life into a surrealistic nightmare. Remember the quote about absolute power. With that arrogance, Ricardo begins to believe in his own invincibility. He severely underestimates Peter Sturgis. Let's not for a minute think that this man who possesses the ultimate power probably views himself as restrained in the use of that power. I think Ricardo's game is the control game more than the give me anything I want game. Ricardo's longevity reminds me of Jay Gatsby's father after his son's untimely death. He reached an age where death no longer has the quality of ghastly surprise. This is Robert P. Fitton for September 7th, 2015, and I've been zooming into the past.